My name is Daryl Carl. Thanks for making a date once again. Government says it has no plans of reviewing levies described as nuisance taxes in the 2017 budget. This is the assurance from Deputy Finance Minister Kweku Kwarteng. He was speaking to Joy Business at the 7th National Taxation Conference in Accra. He also said government has given businesses and the private sector room to expand in order to strengthen the economic base of the country. Ebenezer Sabotage report.
Government in the 2017 budget abolished some taxes in order to reduce the burden on businesses and help them expand. Despite its failure to meet revenue targets for the first half of the year, government has no intention of reviewing these tax policy measures. In an interview with Joy Business, Deputy Minister for Finance Kweku Kwarteng said government is optimistic the business community will respond positively to various tax cuts.
Value addition has to be a culture. It should be a culture of economic management rather than some reform project that would start and end.
But we don't know that government is struggling to meet revenue targets. When you look at the first half of the year, we are not able to meet our revenue target. Are we re-strategizing the reforms, or are there any refocusing of some of these tax measures so that we can be able to meet the revenue target?
We are determined to pursue the path we are charting. If you give tax reliefs with the aim of supporting businesses, you must have the patience for businesses to respond, to increase economic activity, and to start bringing in the revenue that in the long term you desire. We are not going to tamper or disturb our policy to remove nuisance taxes and to ease the cost of doing business. We are not going to do that in spite of what you call revenue shortfalls. We understand what is happening, and we are patient because we have confidence in the private sector, and we know that they will respond to our tax incentives.
Mr. Kwarteng also revealed the government has begun engaging tax experts and stakeholders to ascertain the impact of the tax reforms introduced in the 2017 budget so far.
It's not a reform activity that is going to start and end. Our quest to make industrialization the center of our economic management strategy is a long-term one. And I think as we improve on the economy, we begin to have new objectives. People acquire different tastes, and the burden will be on government to continue work to meet the aspirations of the people. To that end,
the tax measures implemented since the beginning of the year are, among others, expected to empower the private sector to create jobs and grow the economy. The three-day conference is under the theme Tax Reform, its effect on investments, growth and development.
If you've been monitoring the news today, you'd realize that there's plenty talk about SNIT and an investment made into an ICT infrastructure. Now, pension expert Andrews Agbolovi is questioning the $66 million spent by the Social Security and National Insurance Trust on its information technology infrastructure. The amount the trust says was used to acquire computers and related items towards boosting its service delivery to clients. It will be recalled that SNIT recently launched its web portal technology and has also indicated plans to soon make it possible for especially informal sector workers to pay their Tier 1 pension contributions via mobile cash platforms. We'll hear an analyst's perspective on this matter in a bit, but first let's hear from the General Manager in charge of finance at SNIT, Michael Addo, who yesterday justified the amount spent during the launch of an audit of the institution's assets by accounting firm PricewaterhouseCoopers.
We did spend quite a little bit of money on that to acquire the software and the hardware and to implement that. As we are speaking, there are a few areas that we are tightening up. It's not 100%. There are a few areas that we are working on improving. With respect to the cost of it, or whether it's working or not, it's best also to wait a little more for the outcome PwC report. The cost as of now, the cost that that SNIT has incurred as of now is approximately $66 million. Bunch of things. There are a whole bunch of things that goes into that figure. Suffice it to say, or be that as it may, like I said, the final outcome of whatever decision or whatever will depend largely also on what PwC's report will come up with. I think it's premature to make judgments and comments too early on that.
And again, just before we bring in an analyst perspective, let's just try to understand how the IT platform actually works. Here's a report put together by our business desk.
The project, which started in 2012, was aimed at digitizing the records of contributors to the pension scheme. The platform, which is made up of several modules, has been described by some as the business operational platform. The project digitization involves 40 million folders, and according to the management, it took about 2 years to actually complete the process. The project also involved, for the first time, a new portal which allows contributors to have access to the platform that is operated on the internet. It involves the re-registration of the over 4 million workers on the database and the monthly registration and issuance of new biometric cards to all of them. This also involves workers on a continual basis. The old SNIT management maintains that it deployed 52 terminals on the walls of each office around the country, which they say was costly. Also a performance bond given to the vendors who won the bid, which are 3 companies from Malaysia and their Ghanaian counterparts. The whole project will cost about $66 million, and it will include biometric cards, digitization of 40 million records over 2 years, contact center, custom fixing terminals at 50 offices, hardware including servers and high-level scanners and registration machines, both as well as off-site.
All right, so that was a bit of an insight into the IT infrastructure, the background to it, and how it actually works. Let's get the perspective now of pensions expert Andrews Aglovi. He's been speaking to the matter, and here's his view. It's a good project, but way too expensive.
What is involved in this whole $66 million that we are talking about? You see, because from my understanding of this was a whole project that involved trying to enhance the process of, improving collection, trying to, enhance quick payment. Because you see, there was one of the issues that have been lagging all this time. When it comes to people retire, you have to wait for your salary for a long time. Your pension benefit. Meanwhile, you've been taken off government payroll or your employer payroll. So, but what do they need? They need data. So, because pension administration is all about data, the individual data, whether it's accurate, and what you have on the spot to be able to make the payment. So, for me, I will be asking, like what you asked, what was that $66 million used for? What was the initial value when we started the whole project? What were we, expecting that we could have spent? That is what I can, before this final, 66 million. But the intent of what's supposed to do, reading it and understanding what it's supposed to do, it will enhance, our pension benefit globally. Because
yes, well understood.
Yes.
Well understood. But is it value for money? I mean, do we have to spend that much on it?
When you ask value for money question, that's where myself also I have some reservation. You see, because what happened is that if you convert that even into cedis, then that is going to a lot of money, right? So value for money, myself, I also have reservation whether it is value for money. We could have done probably a minimum cost compared to where we got to. That is my concern. But then the intent of what's supposed to be done, yes, I think that there was need for it, because we have to reach a point where, as a contributor, I don't have to have a problem, when I'm going to assess my benefit. Well, the employer has taking me off the payroll. Why should I wait for 6 months? Why should I wait for 1 year? Why should I? And then also assessing my details, you see. And then they themselves trying to collaborate among their various branches such that, there are efficiency and all that.
Okay, so we will stay with SNIT a little while longer because these issues came up because SNIT indicated that it was going to carry out an audit of its operations. So some have described it as a political witch hunt. Is that really the case? Well, we have been speaking to the Director General of SNIT, Dr. John Ofori-Tinkwang, who says the audit is to improve the operations of the National Pension Scheme Administrator.
Hire somebody to manage your affairs. You're going to have to judge the person on how he performs. To be able to know how the person performed, you have to be able to establish a baseline as where the person started. And then once you draw that line, then any ups or downs from there is attributable to that person. And so this audit is a baseline audit. It is not a forensic audit, and so on that, I'm very confident to tell you that it is not a political witch hunt.
How much is this auditing going to cost the SNIT?
I think, and the number was around about 5,000 Ghana cedis, thereabouts. Thereabouts. It's between 500,000 and maybe 550,000. I don't have the exact number.
Okay. Even though the chairman mentioned, but I couldn't capture it very well, he did mention that the period under review. I want to find out is it 2016? Which period under review are we talking about?
Okay, so we asked PwC to establish the baseline as at March 31st, 2017. So that means they can go back as far as they need to be able to do that.
So it could be since the establishment of the SNIT.
I mean, in theoretically, right? Okay. Because SNIT's assets, have accrued since its establishment. But every year there are, audits. We have auditors, they give accounts and so on and so forth. So you may not need to go by that far because you have to rely on certain financial statements and things like that. But in terms of things that are recent happenings, then to the extent that you cannot quantify its effect, or maybe its effects have not been fully crystallized,
Well, away from SNIT, an update on some other news in the world of business. Now, some distressed banks are blaming their worsening financial positions on government's indebtedness. This follows recent comments by the Bank of Ghana that their troubled state had more to do with most of them not sticking to good corporate governance practices. But as we indicated in this report you're about to see, some of these banks are even threatening to take some action that could affect lending to private businesses.
Bank of Ghana's decision to revoke the licenses of 2 out of the 9 distressed banks means that 7 banks are now standing. But some of the banks Joy Business has engaged hold a different view. They maintain that if government had been clearing monies on them, they would not have found themselves in the current situation. One such troubled bank has told Joy Business that government owes them more than 1 billion cedis. The said bank, for instance, argued that if this debt was cleared, their books would have been clean and would not need to depend on the Bank of Ghana for liquidity support. Some of the banks also argue that other credit extended to the private sector has not been paid. Some of the troubled banks have even told Joy Business the development would force them to review loans extended to these firms, as it would affect their finance position, and rather just focus on buying treasury bills. This could compound the current challenge private firms are already suffering in securing credit from the commercial banks.
You're watching Business Live. We are taking a short break. We're back with the Joy Business van. Welcome back to the program. Now, waiting a long while just to get your food served in a restaurant can be frustrating at times. I know how that feels. Now, that triggered Desiree Amelike's idea to start Pizzeria, an online food ordering and delivery service. Here's his story. Deciding on what to eat is an everyday routine. Many a time you have a craving but decide to settle on something else because of distance. And even when you make it to the food joint, depending on what you want, you may have to wait several minutes, even hours. It can become a chore sometimes.
Then I was working in Tema and I lived in Adenta. So often when I close from work, I order food to pick up at East Legon. Usually when you get to the restaurant, you wait for a long while, you don't get your food. You ask the waitress there, they will tell you they've not seen your order, like back and forth.
It was this experience that got Desiree Amaleka to start Pizzeria, an online food ordering and delivery service, but he had no IT background. He used to work in a bank, but that didn't stop him from researching and speaking to friends about his idea. Soon, the online platform would be built. Pizzeria has got a web page and an app.
This is a logo. It's like a pizza running, a hot pizza on a wheel.
Okay, Play Store, you say.
You type Pizzeria.
Okay, Play Store.
Okay. So now I already have the app installed on my phone. I'll click on the app. So the app is trying to get to my location and display the restaurant nearby. So these are the restaurants nearby.
Once you make the choice of what meal you want, you have the option to get it delivered to you or pick it up yourself. You can pay online too.
Yes, we can do that for you. So you want meat lovers?
It's almost lunchtime and the Pizzeria office at Medina here in Accra is very busy.
Before, when we came up as a team to build the platform, getting customers on board, as in the merchant, the restaurant, was quite difficult. You know, it was a new concept. They didn't really understand what this online food ordering thing was about. So we had difficulties in signing restaurants up. But the beauty about it is the expatriates who owned restaurants in Ghana, they bought into the idea. But the Ghanaians who owned their restaurants, it was difficult convincing them to join the platform. However, with time, they are beginning to understand. So we are getting a lot of them signing up.
It's been 2 years since Pizzeria started operating. Now, Desiree and his workers have to grapple with so many orders and more restaurants signing on to the app. Pizzeria is making international waves too. Desiree is trying so hard not to get overwhelmed.
When we developed the system, we tried marketing it locally. So we got a lot of people signing up here. Then time to time we realized we're getting orders from abroad. Usually we get orders from the US, we get orders from Holland, sometimes Chad, all over the world. India, we had a guy who is a Ghanaian in India, a medical student, he said, who orders for his girlfriend in Ghana often. So he's picking up. But the question is, if someone abroad comes on our platform to order food, how does the person pay? So we have a platform where we allow our clients abroad to pay via their Visa card. However, we receive their money via mobile money.
Despite having made a mark with foreign customers, Pizzeria hopes to expand in the sub-region.
Pizzeria wants to conquer Africa. And first of all, we want to deepen our roots in Ghana, then move within the West African sub-region. Then we grow from there.
So next time your stomach begins to grow at lunchtime, well, this is how go online and voila, we're in business. Well, it's time to bring you our interview of the day, and some local banks have maintained that they would be able to meet any amount proposed as minimum capital requirement. This follows a report that the Bank of Ghana could settle on more than 500 million Ghana cedis from the current 120 million as the new capital that every bank must have before they can do business in Ghana. Well, yesterday we heard from GN Bank. Tonight we hear from MD of Heritage Bank, the Deputy MD rather, Peter Sanbederi, on what he thinks his bank can be able to do once the capital comes up.
Interview of the day.
We are not looking at what is happening with regards to other space, because we've mapped out a good strategy that we are following.
Of course, you can't do away with what is happening currently with UT Bank, Capital Bank, high non-performing loans affecting some of these things. How are you managing the situation? What do you think about what has happened and going forward?
Well, it's unfortunate that some two banks have had to go, local banks that they are. Well, the regulator is doing his work. We are not thinking that there should be any barriers in our movement. We have mapped out a lot of strategies. We are ensuring that we focus on doing things the right way. We have in place robust risk management and control processes that we're going that we have in place to ensure that our business goes on without any serious challenges. We have also hired very good people, professionals that are going to work on various things and ensure that the customers are given good treatment. The customers to us are our partners, and we want to ensure that that partnership is actually leveraged on for us.
Interview of the day.
And you can always check out our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We've got interesting business stories there for you, including the launch of the One District, One Factory initiative that is set for Friday. Of course, look out for an exclusive report we are bringing to you from there in the coming days. That'll be it for Business Live. My name is Daryl Kwao. We're back same time tomorrow.